I would like to play for you a brief clip of President Joe Biden basically blaming Russia and Vladimir Putin for quite literally everything wrong that's going on, and not just the country, but the world at large. And then I would like to provide a little retort.
If we do these things, it's estimated we could bring down tomorrow, if Congress agreed and the states agreed, we could bring down the price of oil about $1 a gallon at the pump, in that range. And so we could have immediate relief in terms of the reduction of the elimination of temporary elimination of the gas tax. And so I think there's a lot of things we can do and we will do, but the bottom line is, ultimately, the reason why gas prices are up is because of Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. The reason why the food crisis exists is because of Russia. Russia not allowing grain to get out of Ukraine.
Wow, so it's been quite a spectacle to watch ever since the war in Ukraine kicked off. Vladimir Putin and Russia has been basically the center of blame for our leading politicians in this country. The Republicans blame the Democrats, and the Democrats blame a foreign enemy. I mean, it's quite the theatrics, if I do say so myself. I mean, and it's been that way, and you can expect this trend to definitely continue. So he says that the reason why gas prices are up is because of Russia, Russia, Russia. He then goes on to say, he speaks to the shortages that we have. Once again, we were never supposed to have shortages in a capitalist society. I got to keep mentioning that because it's incredibly important, because that's what they told us, right? He says that the shortages, the food shortages, it's because Russia isn't allowing, wheat and grain to be exported out of Ukraine. So once again, blaming Russia and their policy has nothing to do with what him and his administration is currently doing as it pertains to their policy and their actions, or inactions rather, really both, but has everything to do with Vladimir Putin and Russia. Another question that he was asked that you didn't see in that video clip, he was asked, how long is it fair to expect American drivers and drivers around the world to pay that higher gas price for this ongoing war? And his response is the following: as long as it takes, so Russia cannot, in fact, defeat Ukraine and move beyond Ukraine. This is a critical position for the world. So, firstly, before we get into his remarks specifically and address the overarching vocabulary, what I want to do is just provide a quick explanation of my own as to what all of this is, this theater that we're getting. Blaming China one day, blaming Russia the next day, blaming Iran, Venezuela. There's a long list of foreign enemies that they fearmonger about, our government and the government officials fearmonger about, in order to get the American people off their ass and focused on something else, and off the special interests that actually own our government and more or less the drivers of our current peril. This, what we just witnessed in that video, and also clips in the past, and many more to come, I'm sure, is an outright refusal by not just Biden, but all of our political quote-unquote leaders. There's nothing leaderly about them. It's an outright refusal to accept, to address, to realize, to deal with a country that is plagued by a system, and as a result is in deep decline. And we're witnessing it, and we've been witnessing it for years now, and it's only getting exacerbated as time goes by. And in this current moment, in this current political moment, we are seeing things transpire across the country, and I mean, tensions are extremely high, the divides are deepening. I mean, we see these things culminate in the form of mass shootings, the entire abortion charade. I mean, the inflation, the shortages. Once again, we're a country, or an empire rather, that is kind of wailing around, doesn't really have anywhere to go, can't seem to fix these systematic problems that it's currently experiencing, and as a result, in its wallowing, it blames whatever character or entity that seems fitting to blame that they can get the people to focus on. And this time around, it just so happens to be Vladimir Putin and the Russians. But I suspect, and as many of you would also suspect, this isn't going to work. The Democrats are looking at political suicide in the near coming future, and it is most definitely well deserved in many respects. Not that the people that will be replacing them are any better at all, but let's address the remarks specifically. He says that the Americans have to endure their hardship as it pertains to gas prices and everything else as long as it takes for Ukraine. So, putting aside the fact that he's chosen to blame Russia and Vladimir Putin for all these things, and they can't think of a program, they don't have a solution to anything to address these problems. They're just going to blame somebody else and hope that it sticks and that serves as a adequate answer. He says that we're going to have to endure this as long as it takes. So he leaves it open-ended as to ensure that this is going to continue, and also guarantee that it's going to continue for a while. So as long as it takes, we're going to continue to get hit over the head with the inflation, with all of the qualms that come from war. And what's amazing about this is that the American people, in his mind, and many other people's minds, these elected officials, are essentially backseat drivers. So he's in the driver's seat, these people are, and their main focus is the people of Ukraine, the people that are in a part of the world that most Americans can't even point out on a map and be correct about it. His main focus is them, and whatever happens back at home is just collateral damage, and we don't need to worry about our own populace. No, they must suffer. The people in the West, the people in Europe must suffer as they also grandstand with America and cause their populace great turmoil as well. And he says that they have to defeat Russia because Putin can't be allowed to move beyond Ukraine. So once again, propaganda and fear-mongering, insinuating that this man has, world takeover aims. He wants to go beyond Ukraine, essentially ignoring the build-up to this entire thing, the fact that he and his people had many real grievances that were not addressed that led up to this moment. Of course, you can't justify the action that was taken ultimately, but we also have to understand it. Okay, but this theater, these theatrics, this blaming, this pretending like the world is united on this issue is extremely misguided, extremely incorrect, and I don't see this way of going about this changing anytime soon. We are on a spiral going towards the bottom, and they will continue to relentlessly attack these delegated enemies that they have chosen in order to rile the people up, to get them to get angry at whoever else as they refuse to address the most important thing, and that is the fact that we are dealing with a system that can no longer support the economic needs and necessities of the vast majority of the population.